welcome on in to another action-packed edition of the Between the Hashmarks Podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, and the purveyor of the two-deep zone, Mike Tanier, here on week 0 in the NFL, deal week across the league.
Deal week, getting deals done, cut down week, so much going on. By the way, it's good to see you back on your feet. It's good to be back on my feet as myself. But right, we have all the deals done except for one.
Yeah, one pretty big one that we're going to get to, and we'll just let the cat out of the bag. You and I were both really under the weather over the weekend when all of this was happening. I test positive for COVID. I get the text message from you or see it on social media that you're down and out after all of the partying in South Jersey at the street festival, and we are back from the dead just as the NFL is really back and shifting into gear. But I'll tell you, man, but really unorthodox, because that cut down weekend, that's usually one of my favorite weekends of the year to dive into the news and analyze it and break it down. I was just down and out, man.
You were down and out, and on the one hand, it's like guys losing their jobs and things like that. It is tough for the players, and you talk to a lot of agents, so you know how tough it is for them that they have to work with these players. One person's crisis is another person's opportunity. Sometimes these are times of elation, or a guy gets off the practice squad or suddenly makes a roster. In your case, you broke a story earlier where Jordan Poyer, who you interviewed a couple weeks ago, has returned to the Bills, which is something that he was really, I think, hoping to do deep down.
Yeah, it was always Buffalo or bust for him. He was ready to retire. The Bills come calling. He stands there on the practice squad with the opportunity to perhaps earn a spot on the 53-man roster moving forward here. But a lot of news to get into. And before you break it all down, a little bit of housekeeping. If you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy the show, please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store. Leave us those 5-star reviews. They really do help grow the show. If you enjoy Mike's brand of reporting, analysis, dad jokes, superhero humor, and the whole gambit in one nice package, subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. You can check out Between the Hashmarks on Substack as well. You can even check out the show on my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. But really, Mike, the news of the week, at least for me, was kind of the most unexpected news of the week and the more unexpected developments. Trey Hendrickson. This felt like the outcome that was always destined to happen, because even Trey Hendrickson's trade request felt half-hearted. The Bengals couldn't afford to put even one more dollar in long-term escrow for guaranteed money on a long-term deal. So at the end of the day, Trey Hendrickson gets $30 million, the chance to cash in next year, and he begins this season as the back-to-back sacks leader in the NFL. Your thoughts on how this all went down? We also, have some resolution to the trade rumors that weren't involving Trey Hendrickson over the last weeks and months.
Well, this is kind of a big win for the Bengals because they get him in body, mind, heart, soul, spirit this year, because he's going to be playing for the next contract. It's not something where like he's coming in under the gun and like, oh, maybe I'll pull a hamstring or something like that. I don't think he's that kind of guy, but you know how it is. The motivation is a big part of it. I haven't really been able to look at the contract the way it's laid out. I know it's pretty much lump sum money, like they threw him a bag of money. Now, did they? Are there any guarantees moving forward that he doesn't get franchised? I'm wondering how this works. That like it pretty much knows he will be free to set his own agenda for 2026.
Right. There's been all kinds of reporting and speculation on both sides of that. I can't seem to nail down whether he got the no tag clause. I would assume they're not signing the bag of money financial apology, knowing or thinking that the franchise tag is looming over their head at the end of the year. I don't think Hendrickson would go down that road. But it is interesting, Mike, because there was this school of thought that was evolving over the last couple of weeks that maybe the Bengals would have been better off not re-signing Trey Hendrickson, having the cap space to then go out and sign a top safety, sign a cornerback, add a linebacker in the offseason to bolster what's been a criminally deficient defense. That's been the reason why Cincinnati's missed the postseason. This is why I think it works out best for both sides. Hendrickson gets paid today. The Bengals have the luxury of having drafted Shamar Stewart to go ahead and do that this offseason with the cap money and the cap space that won't be locked up in a long-term Hendrickson deal.
And I'll say this, I'm not sure, I haven't looked at it. If they gave him lump sum salary and they try to franchise tag him, it's a minimum 20% raise of his salary. So if they lump summed him, they would have to pay him. And the 20% again. I'm a little bit under the weather. This might, but the exact number, a raise next year to the point where that's kind of a poison pill for them. That may be how this is set up. Like we could franchise you, but it's so super duper expensive that it would be like that we can't afford it anyway, so we can't do it. Have you looked at the rest of? First of all, did you see them in the preseason at all with their starters? You saw them against the Eagles, right?
It was very bad. It was as if you decided to go into the stands and find somebody wearing a Trey Hendrickson jersey and put him on the field. It was like instead of making Boomer Esiason pay to come in for the Ring of Honor ceremony, you look at the Ring of Honor, you look for the best cornerback, and you tell them, hey, even though you're 47 years old, can you go play corner and bail us out? That's what that defense looked like. Now, I don't know how much of that is Al Golden saying, I'm not scheming, 1 minute for this nonsense, or whether there should be alarms ringing that it's going to be really, 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 really bad in Cincinnati.
In both cases, that in the Commanders game, it was full starters out there for like a couple series. And yeah, everything that we always say about preseason is true. When guys are just getting manhandled, was one-on-one up the sidelines, the Eagles guy who got cut, the Wilson kid, and he's just catching balls over that cornerback. It's not like that cornerback was out there saying, well, it doesn't matter one way or the other. That is going to be a bad defense. Now it'll be passable. Hendrickson covers a lot of sins. They now have a defense with one good guy. I guess my question is, do we change anything in our mentality about the Bengals? Do we change who they are? Do we put them we don't put them in the Super Bowl conversation because of this, do we?
No, I don't know how far removed they were from that conversation anyway, because of Joe Burrow being there and presumably starting faster because he wasn't holding out, or Jamar Chase wasn't holding out in training camp. They're like knocking on the doorstep of that tier, in my opinion, but they were knocking on the doorstep for me beforehand simply because of Burrow in the offense. The defense doesn't change. It is what it is. You have 2 pass rushers now. It's an upgrade. It helps. I don't think it wins them more than 1 or 2 more games.
Right. And then one of the pass rushers that we're talking about, Shamar, the young guys, they take weeks to, unless it's a Watt, unless it's a Watt brother, they take weeks to grow into them being able to have an accomplishment. If you look at the back end of that defense, it's guys we've never heard of. Now that was one that caught us off guard. There was one that did not catch us off guard at all.
Well, especially you. You and I talked about this when I was on the practice field in Richmond on the training camp tour when Terry McLaurin came walking over my right shoulder down to dap up Joshua Harris, the Commanders' owner, that we knew right then a deal was getting done. A deal was getting done. This is where it was always headed. He ties A.J. Brown as the 6th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. He actually beats Brown by like $3,000 or something minuscule like that. But Washington gets continuity with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin with a side dish of Deebo Samuel joining the offense. And Daniels had the benefit of an entire summer working with the younger receivers they're trying to develop, taking up the reps that McLaurin would have had if he were in the building. And maybe the biggest winner of all is Tanier, who, you write the column, you write walkthrough, that by the time you read this, Terry McLaurin's going to have a long-term deal. You hang up a radio hit in, Saskatchewan or wherever you were on the radio, and the news breaks that Terry McLaurin signed his deal. So kudos and hat tip to you. You read this one straight.
Oh, thank you very much. And part of it was getting the tip from you that the guys were dapping each other up, and Harris and McLaurin are being BFFs on the sideline during this contentious quote-unquote holdout. By the way, British Columbia. It was a radio hit in British Columbia, not Saskatchewan.
I was close. I was close.
You're close. Yeah, it was somewhere in Canada. I'll hit you with this. You've been bullish on the Commanders from the beginning of the offseason. Our buddy Jimmy Kempski tracks the ages of every roster. He goes and he calculates and does average age. Oldest roster since he's been doing it in 2012 belongs to the Washington Commanders. Oldest roster. When you start talking about Miller, Ertz, Wagner, all those guys, a lot of second-tier guys that are like older that we don't even think about. Does that worry you at all?
I think there's variations of old. I think that from what I saw with Zach Ertz last year and what I saw, granted it's one training camp practice, but what I saw from Zach Ertz, having eyes on him during training camp, Zach Ertz is a different kind of old than Von Miller is. Zach Ertz looks rejuvenated Baker Mayfieldian, even at tight end in terms of where he is in his career based on the production he put up last year and they're asking of him this year. I still think when you talk about the tiers in the NFC and certainly in the NFC East, it's the Eagles, the Commanders, and then we start talking about everybody else. It might not be the widest window because of some of the older pieces on the roster, but the great denominator here is you have Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels might be Patrick Mahomes, right? He might be on that level when we talk 5-10 years down the line. That's the equalizer of all this. I think that what encourages me more about Washington is the quarterback. They've built a culture with the leadership there. And Adam Peters, the general manager, and Dan Quinn, the head coach, they seem to be working in concert, building a roster that can win now. You establish the winning culture, you draft well, supplement, and you retool from there. Kind of the inverse Packers, where you're waiting for everybody to develop. They have the older pieces, the veterans. Now it's just time to supplement it through the draft.
Yeah, normally I'm super worried when I see that age curve because, again, these guys start falling off the other side of it, and we just tend to overrate bigger names, and bigger names tend to be older guys. I'd be more worried if I wasn't looking at, say, the Vikings roster and saying they've only got 3 cornerbacks in the whole roster.
Right.
Or the Lions, who on cut down day to 53, cut down to like 26. Like they're not satisfied with anybody, and they're like throwing guys out there. The 49ers, everyone is injured. Matthew Stafford's rubbing crystals on his back. So, everybody's got the worry. So if the Commanders' worry is that, well, maybe Von Miller, Bobby Wagner, and Zach Ertz have gotten old, that's a pretty good worry compared to I don't know who my number 3 edge rusher is, and my number 2 edge rusher is Marcus Davenport, who probably got hurt when I said his name.
Right, or in the same division, I don't know that my pro edge rusher wants to even play and wants to even show up. I mean, every team has worries, but when you look across the NFC, Green Bay Packers, what are you doing at cornerback? Are you really turning to Bo Melton, a converted wide receiver, as a cornerback? And they are. They seem intent on doing that. Arizona, you've bought a lot of pieces on defense. How quickly does it come together? And what the heck exactly is Kyler Murray, even with Marvin Harrison Jr.? You talk about the NFC South. I like the Bucs. I like the Falcons. Question marks with both. Everybody has questions. The Eagles and the Commanders have the fewest on that side of the bracket.
By the way, I love the what is Kyler Murray? It's his 7th season. Is this I think we know if we don't know the answer, that is the answer. You know what I'm saying? but that's the thing with the Cardinals. I don't want to get down the weeds with the Cardinals and things like that. The Buccaneers are another example of a team. It's like, Wirfs, they're not pupping these guys, which is good. They're going to play sometime first 4 weeks, but it's Wirfs and Godwin. It's like you're talking about, Pro Bowl caliber guys you're going to be missing for a month. That's another question. Commanders have that little question there as well, in that like some of these guys. If you see Jimmy's thing, by the way, he's got them all sitting at like the park bench feeding pigeons. It's very cute. But like
you come for the stick figures, you stay for the analysis.
Stay for the analysis, exactly. But it sounds like you're champing at the bit here to get to Micah. You got Micah on the brain. I'm kind of done with Micah, but let's do Micah.
Well, I think Micah's done with the Cowboys. So you guys kind of have something similar in mind there. Spoke to somebody at the column 4 Downs on Monday, an agent familiar with, multiple top-tier pass rushers around the league, told me flat out that Micah Parsons wants out. Yeah. He's trying to get out. David Mogoleta, his agent, is trying to get him out. Mike, another week goes by, not only without a contract, but Micah Parsons taking a nap on the trainer's table. Literally, that happened during the preseason game. I'll say borderline disrespectful activity on the sidelines of a preseason game, doing everything he can to get out of Dallas. But Jerry Jones and the Cowboys still have all the leverage. 2 or 3 big deals get done. Micah Parsons nowhere closer to the finish line.
I'll just throw this out there because, again, we've been speculating. Okay, so Micah's doing that. 6, 8, 10 weeks ago, Micah was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do whatever I can for this team. Hey, you know what? Business is business. Last year, it's like, hey, I'm not even going to worry about my contract. He was up for a contract last year. He just let the clock run. I am a team player. I love this sport so much. I want to be a part of this team for life. This guy's messaging has been super pro, company man. And by last week, he's lying on the trainer's table saying, am I injured? Am I bored? Am I not? Now, if you just did that to Micah Parsons, if the culture that Schottenheimer's put together, that Jerry's put together, Schottenheimer was trying to survive in, did that to Micah, What's going to happen with George Pickens this year?
Yeah, that's going to quickly, become a ticking time bomb that's going to go boom. I mean, it's just bound to happen because Micah Parsons was a team leader. Micah Parsons seemed all in on the Cowboys, and now he can't get out of that situation quickly enough. Something must have happened. We know something happened, according to Micah Parsons, at least, in that meeting where he tried to have direct negotiations with Jerry Jones, tried to have direct contract negotiations without David Muguleta being there. Mike, I had two different agents unsolicitedly text me how out of line that was by Jerry Jones this week. One of them sent me a screen grab of a Darrelle Revis post on social media where he basically said that it was unethical what Jerry Jones did, and the NFLPA needs to be more aggressive, combating these sort of things. Former Jets player putting that out there. It's just a bad situation all around, and I hadn't even linked this to the culture that Brian Schottenheimer is building. Talk about getting off on the wrong foot. That team could really set itself back to the point it buries itself before September ends if this doesn't get resolved.
And it contrasts with, again, you seeing Harris and McLaurin dapping on the sidelines because they're not negotiating directly with each other.
Right.
Okay, which creates a level of deniability where both of them can look each other in the eye because whatever was said, that intermediary, that agent, and usually obviously not the owner, but a general manager or assistant general manager are at odds so that there is not this rift from the people who have to work day to day. Maybe the owner doesn't count in most situations as that, but Jera is there day to day in Dallas. So in addition to the fact that like it's financially, it's irresponsible and it's unethical, that it creates this friction on purpose because it makes it more public and more hostile within the people in the organization. So that's what, yeah, and that's where okay, I don't know if he's in uniform against the Eagles. I'm guessing he won't be in Eagle uniform against the Eagles. I think it's you who said, well, the Chris Jones situation, then everyone, Jerry's like, oh my God, the Eagles ran for 500 yards and threw for 500 more. Here's all my money. I don't care about the Cowboys.
Yeah.
He comes back, he gets 17 and a half sacks, and they had a total 25 and a half sacks, because the rest of this team is already banana pants. They are not serious. They have not put together, they're not fighting hard for each other, not fighting hard for that boss.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and it's going to be interesting to see how long this looms into the regular season. It could get done tomorrow. The reports that he was getting a second opinion on his back today, and who knows if that's a wink, wink, nod, nod to meeting with David Muguleta to go over an offer, and a deal gets done by Thursday morning before this even goes live. You just never know. It could happen, or you could wake up on the Friday after the opener and conversations pick up steam because Micah Parsons isn't there.
He's going to Matthew Stafford's back guy. He's going
not a great plan.
He's going. He's going. Oh no! Right? Yeah, because you wind up actually more hurt somehow as a result. So yeah, don't do that. I got a doctor. He writes prescriptions. It's fine. I'll give Mike the number of this guy. Whatever's wrong with you, he'll come up with something. It's fine.
So we move from breaking down all of the news off the field to looking ahead to the action about to be on it. Next week's going to be our prediction extravaganza where we make our Super Bowl picks and all those fun things. But today I thought it'd be fun, Mike. I'm really loving on the Two Deep Zone the closing argument series. It's a great way to fill this week. It's a great way for people to dive into each team, get the 30,000-foot view of what each situation is looking like, with in-depth knowledge of each. And I thought we'd play a little bit of a game here. I want us each to pick the best team to emerge from each one of your tiers.
Okay.
How does that sound to you?
That's good. I'm looking them up right now because I always forget what I wrote moments after I wrote it. But I've got everything.
You and I both. It's what happens when you write as often as we do.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And this was like about a 30,000 word thing that I wrote when I was partially sick. So I also want to thank Jerry Wappler, my editor, for cleaning up some really big spills on aisle 4. But yeah, let's do it. I guess we would start then with the Super Bowl contenders, the best.
Yeah, the Super Bowl contenders. I'm gonna plant the flag here with the Eagles. Again, we talked about fewest concerns of anybody on that side of the bracket. I think that the Eagles and Howie Roseman have built the deepest and most talented roster across the league, and they're all back from a year ago. Jalen Hurts is back, not coming back from any sort of injury. It's not a new quarterback. Saquon Barkley, fully healthy going into the year. Zach Bond, another year of comfort in Vic Fangio's defense. Jalen Carter, another year of just being an absolute menace up front. They'll figure out the issues at corner, just as they fell into Andrew Makuba stealing the starting safety job alongside Reed Blankenship. They'll figure that out. I think it sets up really nicely for them the early part of the schedule. You get to go into Kansas City early as a litmus test and a barometer. So if we're looking at Super Bowl contenders from your list from the closing arguments, I'm taking the gavel and I'm gaveling in Philadelphia.
And just for people who hadn't read it, and please go check it out, the Super Bowl contenders were picked by DraftKings. Like, I used the odds to pick these teams, which means it wasn't all my picks. I would not necessarily have put the Rams and 49ers both on that list, but they had, like, there was an odds cutoff I picked, and they were there. So, of course, this is the best of the best teams. Of course, I'm a grown-up Eagles fan, just like you. I'm picking the Ravens because FTN Almanac, the DVOA projections, Aaron Schatz, says that was the team to beat in terms of the analytics when you go deep dive into everything they did last year. Historically good team until they did what they did in the playoffs. And at some point you have to say that's either real or it's not real. What's funny, obviously I'm not going to go through it. Folks know that Andrew Jackson.
Look at you. Jeez, wow. History teacher Mike coming out here. Wow.
Jackson? Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are good ball players. Every good team is like missing a cornerback. So you mentioned the Eagles, kind of missing a cornerback. Okay. The Ravens thought they got a cornerback. It was Harry Alexander. Now, by the way, he could play week 1, but all the indications are he's been injured. Lo and behold, he has a long lingering injury. That's news. The Bills are another team where it's like, we drafted Maxwell Hairston. Maxwell Hairston, I believe, is going to miss the year. So they brought back Tre'Davious White because they like bringing back guys. Jordan Poyer, for example. Tre'Davious White got hurt. So whenever we look at all of these teams, they appear to be like one cornerback short. And if the Ravens' biggest weakness is they're only going to have Alexander for his customary 7 games a year, that's not much of a weakness. So I think
make them 7 games at the end and going into the postseason. And you just said that I don't know where the weakness is with the Baltimore Ravens. Right. And watching them in training camp, and you look at it's Marlon Humphrey over here, it's Jair Alexander over there, it's Kyle Hamilton, newly minted highest safety in the history of the league over here. Rookie Malachi Starks has an interception and a tip pass in the practice I happen to be at over there. Front 7, you upgrade the front 7, drafting Mike Green. You have the pieces there. You're playing bully ball with Lamar and Derrick Henry. You have Zay Flowers hitting his stride in his 3rd year. And just for good measure, go out and you sign DeAndre Hopkins, right? Just for funsies. Right. It's the people that you talk to, they repeat it. It's the Eagles and the Ravens are the deepest rosters in the NFL. I think, Mike, they're on a collision course for the Super Bowl in Santa Clara. I really do.
And that's a very popular choice. I looked at the odds. I don't have them up. It's probably like plus 800 for that exact combination, which is amazing odds for 1-1-2 punch there. But again, if you go look at that, these are the Super Bowl contenders. You can't go wrong because these are exceptional teams that were picked by the handicappers, not by me.
For sure. Let's go to the playoff hopefuls, and I'll give you first dibs here.
Okay, I'm going to go make sure I remember who I picked here. No, not them. No, not them. Maybe them. No, not them. No, not them. All right, I'm going to go with the Houston Texans.
Okay. Oh, bust out.
Yeah, well, and the FTN Almanac, who I just used as my support crutch to pick the Ravens, wasn't high on the Texans. But what I've seen in the preseason, not just watching preseason games, but getting a lot of updates coming out of the camp there, the offensive line has not been fixed, but it's been duct taped together pretty good to the point where it's like they've got a new system. C.J. Stroud should be fine. He's got the very good receivers out there. It won't be absolute clown show in front of him. He'll be able to put a stable offense together. And the defensive side of the ball, you talk about a team that's not a cornerback short, not a defensive lineman short. Actually, they lost Autry, but they still had like 5 guys out there, including Daniel Hunter and Anderson. That is a very strong team. It's a weak division, and the Jaguars have a much easier schedule, and I go through that in the article. But the Texans, it's almost like you sleep on them a little bit and how good they can be. But in that division, you can wind up winning 14 games.
I think you pencil in 6 wins out of the AFC South.
5-1 at the very minimum. You're going to
very minimal.
You're sweeping the Titans no matter what. You're going to sweep the Colts. Colts are in absolute free fall down into the abyss. And then it's like, well, the Jags, you could probably split with. The Jags are pretty good. 5-1 right there. Now, I think they get the, I don't have it in front of me. Maybe I should pull it up right now. Hey, Vamp, while I try to find this.
Yeah, I mean they're the team that people always kind of slip their mind, but I mean C.J. Stroud is there. You think about the weapons they have on offense around him. They get more wide receiver help in the NFL draft. The defense is there. DeMeco Ryans has the winning culture. I admittedly sleep on the Texans because it seems like they fall into this butting their head against the glass ceiling in the AFC in the playoffs. But the glass ceiling happens to be the Kansas City Chiefs that a lot of teams run into and can't get through. So you'll see when push comes to shove in the postseason if they can get it done. But if Stroud continues on the upward trajectory and Derek Stingley Jr. continues to be a defensive player of the year caliber corner, and you have Will Anderson, you have those pieces up front, look out, man.
Yeah, and what I was saying about the schedule I got now, they do draw the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bills. And in the NFC, they draw the 49ers, who should be very tough if they're healthy enough. And they draw the Buccaneers. And if you compare that to the other schedules in the AFC South, all those teams get these second, third, fourth place teams, and it's a much weaker slate. So the Texans will get tested week in and week out. But like I said, 5-1, 6-1, 6-0 in that division. With that defense, Stroud healthy, that's a really strong team.
Yeah, just get in if you're them. I'm going to go with the team I've been all about for several years, Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. You know, you look.
I thought it was going to be the Broncos.
Well, yeah, I am all in on the Broncos, and I think that they're going to be the team that could wreck some people's day in the postseason. But I don't think that they're a fully healthy Joe Burrow, fully loaded offense firing on all cylinders. I mean, look, Joe Burrow leads the league in passing a year ago, and if Andy Reid cares even, half of my pinky about the Week 18 game against Denver, maybe they get in, even with a historically awful defense. Defense can't be that bad again, I don't think. I don't think it can be that atrocious. I think Burrow could be on a 5,000-yard, 50-touchdown caliber trajectory. I think they get in, and I think that Joe Burrow is the one quarterback that strikes the fear of God into Patrick Mahomes. If they get in, I think they can make a really deep run.
For me with that team, it's like I think all of us say, man, the floor is 7-10 because they're going to score a million points. And then the ceiling, maybe you have a higher ceiling, but it's like 10-7. They have a tough division. They have a very weak defense, even if it's improved a little bit. And if you say, well, the defense has got to get better, there's always a chance also that the offense declines a little bit. If you look at who they have at guard right now, their two guards are not guys that you look at and say, oh, this is a wall of granite in front of Joe Burrow. But it's hard to argue against them at some level. It's like, well, yes, you have Joe Burrow, you have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins. There's going to be some games where it's going to be 38-34, and you're either going to win or going to lose. You can't say that about more than half the teams in the NFL. So that makes the Bengals automatically dangerous.
Yeah, give me, -3, -7 inside of a minute. Joe Burrow is probably the quarterback that I want, and I think that they're going to be in a lot of situations where he's going to need to win them the game. He's going to have to go out and do it. The meh teams. I love a good meh team.
What makes a man go meh? That is the question I'm asking.
The New England Patriots make you go meh, and maybe a little bit better than that, right? Because they did all they needed to do. They checked every box in the offseason. They put the cap space to use. They bring in Milton Williams. They bring in Carlton Davis. They, in the draft, go and they get the top offensive tackle on the board. They get Trevion Henderson. You bring in Stephon Diggs. The pieces are there for Drake May to take the leap. And if they make the leap, I'm not going to say they're going to challenge the Buffalo Bills because I think the Bills are in that Super Bowl tier very comfortably and very easily the team to beat in the AFC East. But I could see Mike Vrabel with better coaching and more talent all around, top to bottom. I could see New England pushing for a 9-11 win season.
What they have is a pretty easy schedule, too.
Yes.
I'm going to read off the start of it here. Raiders, Dolphins, Steelers, Panthers. Now, I'm going to put in a win for the Dolphins because the Dolphins all want to crawl up and die. I'm going to put a win for the Panthers because I think that the Panthers are kind of overrated. And then the Steelers or Raiders, like, who are these guys? It's very, very possible you just get 3-1 off the bat. I would say the Raiders and the Patriots have a lot in common in terms of like the sort of the rebuild that they're going through here. And then later on, I can say there's a little stretch of Saints, Titans, Browns. A Saints, Titans, Browns stretch in October. That could be 3-0.
That's a nice rest.
That's a nice 3-0, and like guys sort of like get more with the program and understand, and Vrabel can yell at them after you only won by 7 in this game. We should have won by 17, and the guys are receptive to that and all that. So I don't mind the idea of them being a wild card team at all.
That's how LSU scheduling the Citadel in November after the college football playoff rankings come out. I mean, that stretch that just is what it is. It's a nice little NFL respite.
It's 3 Citadels. I mean, again, like we're just gonna read that out again because it's like Saints, Titans, Browns. Are you kidding me? That could be Tyler Shuck, and then okay, so it's Ward, but Ward has nobody around him, and he's sort of figuring things out. And then Dylan Gabriel,
Yeah,
or Shador, or Bailey Zappi. It could be the Bailey Zappi homecoming revenge game. Against the
I'm telling you, don't sleep on New England over the 9. If the number is 9, don't sleep on the over if you're banking 3 wins in your back pocket in November.
And that's a good way of looking at it, because whenever I talk about these teams as like, well, this is my surprise, this is my sleeper, you've heard me say it, put a number on it.
Yes.
Put a number. Yeah, like I think it's a 9 and 8. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play over 8.5. I'll play over 9.5 because I like the number on it. But if you put a number on like that, it's reasonable. It's reasonable. When you start saying they're going to challenge the Bills, it's like, would you put $1 on that, or would you put that dollar on buying some gum, right? And that's a different thing. So I like that. I like the Jaguars.
Ooh.
One reason I like the Jaguars is because shots and the DVOA projections and FTN Almanac like the Jaguars a little too much, I thought. Where they have them winning that division outright. And the thing I keep going back to is the team that we are comparing them to was last year's Mac Jones, or Trevor Lawrence is obviously injured but playing version of the Jaguars. Whereas with Doug Peterson out there, probably canceling practices after like July 29th or whatever. You remember Doug's practices.
Yeah.
So now when you come in with Liam Cohn, who's going to bring an attention to detail, more of a short passing offense, you get Lawrence healthy. I'm not one of these Lawrence deniers. I've got enough denial in my soul with Justin Herbert that I can't carry it over.
He's fine. He's fine.
He's fine.
He's not the generational prospect we were promised, but they haven't built around him enough of an infrastructure for him to really be that guy. He doesn't have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. He doesn't have Justin Jefferson. He doesn't have Travis Kelce. He doesn't have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. But he has the Travis Hunter now. And if there's ever a year for him to make the leap with Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter, this is the year with a supposed quarterback whisperer coming in as a head coach. This is the year for Trevor Lawrence to be Trevor Lawrence. And if that's what the numbers are indicating, mixed with Schatz' insight, I can dig it. I can get behind the Jaguars challenging the Texans in that division.
Right, and Liam Cohn's offense of a million screens, okay, yes. Where you can play point guard a little bit there, and I don't think the latter day version of Peterson's offense was really like that. They also have an easy schedule, and no schedule will sound easy after what we just talked about. But they get a little stretch where it's the Titans, Colts, Jets in November and December. Where you could have a Colts team that's in free fall, and who knows what the Jets will be at that point in the year. They've got these other skids. Don't compare it to the Patriots. Compare it to the Texans.
Yeah,
who are going to be out there against all these like first place teams every week. Yeah, the Jaguars get some other first. They get the Chiefs in there as well. But there's a chance where they just rise up if they split with the Texans, where all of a sudden they almost have similar records because they had an easier slate.
For sure. So that was a ton of fun. I'm all about it. I will say this. I think that the metrics and the odds makers are a little too bullish, in my opinion, on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not even sure that I saw them in the playoff hopefuls bracket with you, I believe it was, from the DraftKings. Ralph Vacchiano, who's a good friend, covered the Giants for a long time at Fox Sports. He had them on a break or two away, basically the second tier in his power ranking tiers. I'm so glad the tiers this season is over, but I am very bearish on Pittsburgh, Mike. I don't see it. That wide receiving core behind DK Metcalf looks like it's just a bunch of moving parts, still trying to figure out what it's going to be. Aaron Rodgers does not look even as mobile this July as he looked last November. You're banking on that defense clubbing people upside the head and winning a lot of games 13-6. I don't think there's a lot of 13-6 games to be had.
And you laid eyes on him. Most of us have not seen him. You laid eyes on him in July.
Not much movement.
Right. And there's usually not much movement in 7-on-7s and all. But yeah, the thing about people like mind wiped. I feel like December, and we were talking about the owner's kid and like bringing people into the clubhouse, and everybody getting fired, and these terrible games, and these games where the Jets were not even competitive, and all this whirlwind about Rodgers, and then like 3 weeks passed, and it's like all of our brains went memento, and
Yes.
everyone forgot everything, and they look at his stat line. And it's like, oh, he had a pretty good year. Well, and I don't know what the numbers are. I don't have it. Like 3,800 yards and 26 touchdowns or whatever he had. That's a good season. And it's like, no, no, you lived through it. It was a couple weeks ago. It's all fluff. It's all padding. It's all checkdowns. It's all like there was a late touchdown in a game against like the Cardinals or somebody like that where they lost by 2 scores. He was bad. He is now not a good quarterback. So you're resting this on almost this mentality where, oh, well, it was the Jets last year, and now he's in a better situation. No, that's not what happened. The Jets customized a roster for him.
They brought in Randall Cobb and all of his buddies, and Nathaniel Hackett was there. Everybody from Green Bay. It was the Packers East, headlined by Aaron Rodgers. You nailed it, by the way. 3,900 yards and 28 touchdowns. So hat tip to you. He's a shell of a quarterback that he was in New York. People forget. You want to talk about getting brain wiped? I still remember Detroit going into Lambeau on Sunday night in Week 18, punching the Packers in the mouth, knocking them out of the postseason contention, ending the time that
Right.
Aaron Rodgers was in Green Bay. He was a shell of himself in 2022, and that's pre-Achilles. It has been a long time. He won the MVP in 2022, showed himself in 2023. But, it's been a long time since Aaron Rodgers was the Aaron Rodgers we remember.
Yeah, and by the way, we butchered those years because there's a lot of confusion in our brains. You were right; it was 2022 season.
Yes.
Although that game might have been in 20. Never mind. What you're saying is very true. The end of that year, he's out there. He's like a throwaway machine for a Packers team. It's still in the playoff contention, and they got smoked in that last game.
And a sack target. He was a tackling dummy in the pocket.
He's a tackling dummy in the pocket, so he would like clock the ball and he'd walk out shaking his head. And that's what we saw all last year.
Yes.
Was him shaking his head, going to the sidelines, and then 2 weeks later somebody get fired or something like that. And the idea that we can walk away from that and say, well, according to these raw stats, he still has something left. And Arthur Smith, this notorious quarterback risk whisperer that Arthur Smith is, whose entire accomplishments in life besides being born a billionaire is Derrick Henry. We should get him the fucking ball more. Great,
right.
Great. You're a genius. You're a genius. Go to the Falcons and see what happens. I think I should run triple reverses with Jonnu Smith. You're a crazy person. Oh, and by the way, now you have Jonnu Smith again. So you have your favorite wind-up toy. And now you're dealing with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is going to drop back, not like what he sees, and start rolling around. If he starts rolling to the right and waving guys downfield and saying, Roman Wilson, you know what my hand signals mean.
Scotty Miller, go over there.
Yeah. This is going to be absolute DK. Change direction, DK. Okay, hold on. Going to be bad.
It is not going to be good football in Pittsburgh. This is going completely off the rails, as only Aaron Rodgers could send us.
I have to cough really bad, so hold on.
You can mute your mic. There you go. See, you get it out. I understand you're getting over being sick. I'm getting over being sick as well. We're playing through it because we're professionals. This
is a hell of a podcast. You solicited questions on the internet, didn't you?
I did. I figured it'd be a lot of fun because we're kind of in this no man's land before previewing games and recapping what happened. Ask the people some questions, and we had 2 or 3 really good ones.
I had one too on my end. I don't know if you got. So you do yours, and then I'll do mine.
Okay, this one comes in from Bo Harmon on Threads. He asks, who are your breakout candidates for this year, and give me your comeback player of the year favorite. So which one would you like to tackle first here?
I think I'll do comeback player of the year. I want to look at the odds, though, man. I would like to head in the direction of Mr. Trevor Lawrence, who is eligible. Remember, you have to be eligible, so you have to have been injured last year. He was injured. You can get him at plus 500. Again, I think he's going to bounce back, even if a lot of it is schedule and a lot of it is scheme. Voters don't care about that.
Right.
Voters are going to see Trevor Lawrence out there. He gets 4,000 yards, gets 11 or 12 wins. He's going to be a popular candidate on that end. And why don't you give me your pick? And I have the odds ready if you...
Yeah, I'm going to go chalk. because why wouldn't I go chalk, right? I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey
Okay.
because it's going to have to be Christian McCaffrey because there's not a lot of meat on that bone in the offense there. Because obviously Brandon Ayuk's still going through issues. The passing game is going to be Ricky Pearsall and two dudes they signed off of other teams' rosters because everybody's hurt. Jordan Mason, who was a great handcuff last year, is a Minnesota Viking. I could see Christian McCaffrey, 1,150 yards, closing on double-digit touchdowns or more. If San Francisco wins that division again and McCaffrey's the driving force and he reminds people of what he is when he's at his best, I'll take Christian McCaffrey.
I thought you were going to say DJ Chalk, and I was like, I hope not. McCaffrey, by the way, is not chalk. Obviously, a popular choice, plus 300. Certainly a very logical choice. Again, he's 100% eligible. He's a high-profile player. All the reasons you mentioned. Chalk would be, here are the two favorites. Dak Prescott at plus 275, wouldn't touch it.
No.
Aiden Hutchinson plus 275.
That's pretty good value. That's pretty good value. Yeah.
Others along the way, J.J. McCarthy, he will not win the award. People will say he didn't really come back because he never had done anything. Nick Chubb ain't winning it. Hey, here's one. Daniel Jones at plus 2,000. Are you feeling it?
No.
No. Donate that money to a nice charity. Put it in a tip jar.
Yeah, tip your barista.
Andy Richardson plus 3,500.
Maybe throw $1 down just for fun because I don't like money.
He could be the barista. Now, I'm going to admit, I don't have a breakout handy. I should get all this ready because I'm going to be doing radio.
Yeah.
But you surely have a breakout. So what do you?
I do. I'm going to go Caleb Williams here because I think that the shotgun marriage is going to be a really fruitful one. And how many times have we said this? I can't remember a team that's done more to set up their young quarterback than the Bears have, fixing their offensive line in the span of one offseason with veterans, top-tier free agents. You draft Colston Loveland. You draft Luther Burden. You already had Cole Kmet in place, so you can run a lot of two tight end sets, which takes a lot of pressure off your quarterback, making big throws down the field. Roma Dunze is there. DJ Moore stretches the field a little bit. The weapons are around him. I think the Bears surpass expectations, and I think Caleb Williams plays his way into that top 5, top 10 production number, and people are going to look around and say, wow, where did that come from? Well, it came from him being the number 1 pick in the draft a year ago and having to withstand a 3-ring coaching circus in his rookie year.
No one's going to say, where did that come from? Because it's like, oh, yeah, Ben Johnson came in and restored law and order. So, we see it. I think it'll still surprise a lot of people. Perfectly reasonable choice there. By the way, I'm racking my brain for one here. But there's a lot of really good second-year players. I don't have that, perfectly...
I know.
This kid was banged up last year and came back. Caleb Williams is an excellent choice.
Malik Neighbors should be in the conversation too a little bit, you would think.
He sort of broke out. Sometimes I'll pick the guy and it's but didn't he already break out? So I'm trying to and I'm trying to do it off the top of my head. It's not coming to me. Let's just both pick Caleb Williams.
I like it. Well, let's go with the question that you have from your end because it might have made my list and I don't want us to double up.
Okay, well, this comes from Derek Rett. Not to be confused with Eric Dredd, who played for the Buccaneers years ago. Derek Rett asks, prediction on Ashton Janty's season behind a crap Raiders O-line and Pete Carroll's commitment to the run being dead for the last 7-ish seasons. Did you happen to have that one?
I had it at the bottom of my list, so it could, but I'm glad that you saw it as well. I'm actually really bullish on Ashton Jeanty, and it's for the same reason that I'm so bullish on a Christian McCaffrey Comeback Player of the Year award, is because there's not a whole lot else out there. You have Brock Bowers and what else in Las Vegas? I think they're going to run him into the ground. I think he's going to reward them handsomely for doing it. I think you're going to see a lot of highlight reel level plays. You're going to see Saquon Barkley's rookie year where you have 3-yard run, 56-yard touchdown, 4-yard run, 2-yard loss, 48-yard receiving touchdown. And it's going to be that kind of year. Give me 1,150 yards and 7 touchdowns for Ashton Jeanty as a rook.
Well, actually, my exact projection was going to be 1,307 yards and 11 touchdowns with 91 receptions because I just grabbed Saquon's rookie year. Literally just have Saquon's rookie year. You're playing for the bad team that doesn't have much else to do. You are exceptional. I guess we could have used Bijan's rookie year. That would have been another one that you could have gone with. He is a very special running back. And I don't know, Carroll's going to find ways to feed him the ball, and Chip Kelly's going to find ways to feed him the ball. Carroll's out there. talking to the defense and going rah-rah zish boom bah on the sidelines. The latter-day Chip Kelly, who has a pretty different offense than the one we saw in Philly years ago, is going to be looking for ways to get that young man the ball. I don't know how terrible their line really is. I think it's probably just below average. Colton Miller's a good ball player. Jackson, Powers, Johnson, Powers, Jackson, I think was a pretty good prospect a year or two ago at center. Offensive rookie of the year, right? This is the prohibitive.
Run away. Yeah, run away with it, in my opinion. I think he's a generational prospect, generational running back, and he's what they're going to build their offense around. Next question comes in. Scott Larson on Blue Sky. Could Adam Thielen in the slot be a blocking and shallow target for J.J. McCarthy in the passing game, or is this just a nostalgia tour?
No, it's not a nostalgia thing. Jalen Naylor is hurt. Jalen Naylor, their regular slot, who's been a very steady slot for the last couple of years, has been very helpful through all the injuries, stepping up. He's got an injury that's going to limit him or possibly sideline him. I'm not really up to date. First couple of weeks of the year. So you bring in Adam Thielen, who knows the system and knows the culture and knows his role, and he's going to come in for the first couple of weeks and do some of that slot stuff. If he wasn't close to toast, he would still be in Carolina as their slot security blanket guy for Bryce Young. But
and I think that what Scott lined out there was the blocking and shallow passing target, short passing security blanket for J.J. McCarthy. That's the plan, right? And the reason that he's there is to be the slot and be the potentially number 2 or number 3 passing option, with Jordan Addison being out as well on the suspension. That's the plan. But I spoke to somebody over the weekend who basically laughed off the trade and thought that Thielen is pretty close to washed, if not washed already. So the plan is for this not to be a nostalgia tour. What it turns out to be, I think, is anybody's guess.
I think by week 6 it'll be a nostalgic tour because you'll have Addison back and Naylor back. Naylor's a better player than Thielen right now. That's what they have to realize. And I was pulling up Thielen's numbers from last year, and he had this big game against the Eagles where he went 9-102. End of the season, it was like 5 catches for 43 yards, like where he's catching these underneath passes and doing very little with them. You can get that from another guy, and I think that the Vikings want to get that from Naylor and from the Hawkinson, their tight end, and that Thielen is going to wind up being sort of a leadership guy after everyone's healthy and off suspension.
Last one before we go here is keeping undrafted free agents on the 53-man roster the sign of a shallow roster, specifically seeing this concern relating to the Vikings. It's from FXI3 on Blue Sky. Mike, I don't know that I necessarily read it that way. I think that that's just an endorsement of your scouting department and you're believing these guys pounding the table for guys in the draft process that you had 7th-round grades or after on. You were able to sign them. It's a testament to these guys making the roster during training camp. I think it's a testament that you might not be sold on some of the veterans on your roster, or you had an aging roster that you're looking to hit the reset button on. And this is a quick, cheap way to figure out if these guys can be those pieces. But I don't think it's an indictment of it being a shallow roster at all. What do you say?
I don't think so. No, it can be. I think there are times when it can be. Not in the Vikings case. First of all, you go back to Ivan Pace, some of the other guys. The last couple of years, very good track record at identifying UDFAs, making sure they get a fair chance to compete for these spots in the roster. A lot of times teams are precious about their draft picks, and the UDFAs are not ever given like meaningful reps or paid attention to or coached up because they got to get that 5th-round, 6th-round pick. Not so much the case in Minnesota. They give these guys opportunities. Flores has the chance to work with the guys he wants to work with. So if this was, we were talking about the Browns or the Saints or something like that, like, yeah, this is a shallow roster issue. That's not the case in Minnesota. They're happy with the guy. Now, of course, they've got holes again. I guess we talked off camera about their cornerback situation. That's a problem. Okay.
Yeah, and that just is what it is. And it's still a really good defense. Brian Flores can mask some of those issues at cornerback. I think that the Minnesota story is interesting. I think that they might be a little bit underrated in the NFC North, but I don't think it's because of some youth movement that's going to be why they do or don't make the postseason. Mike, what do you have coming over the 2-deep zone over the next few days?
Well, the final installment of the closing arguments for the stinky poo teams comes tomorrow. So I know a lot of my readers have been waiting for me to just tee off and start ripping the Dolphins and the Colts and all these other teams. Tomorrow is your day. Not everybody gets ripped. Okay, so there's some optimism. The Giants have reason to be optimistic. I think the Jets do too. Some of these other teams, but the stinky poo teams come tomorrow. Friday there is the last installment for a while of signature moments, where we talk about the signature moments of the New Orleans Saints.
Perfectly timed.
Perfectly timed. A 20-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina landing in New Orleans, and we'll be talking about that moment, but also like obviously happier on the field moments in the history of the Saints franchise. What do you have coming up?
Looking forward to reading all that. Make sure you subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. We moved the 5 burning questions series to the AFC, where we are racing to the finish line to get this series done. NFC South published today, if you want to go check that out. Mailbag on Friday, where people can pose their questions to me, and then I'll ask them to my agent, executive, coach, former player sources, get their thoughts on what's happening inside the league. And Monday, Mike, it is the annual predictions column. The 4 downs predictions, my Super Bowl pick, my pick for all of the top awards, some random thoughts on the season ahead. Looking forward to getting that out there on Monday morning.
Oh, thank God. I can just read it and then just pick a different person, and then I'll be ready for the podcast. Less work for me. Thank heavens. Honestly, this sneaks up on me every year because
yes.
It's not like I'm picking on you. It's like I'm going to be on my British Columbia radio show and the one that I do in Alberta and some of these other. What's your Super Bowl pick? What's your MVP pick? And every time I'm like, oh my God, I'm being asked that. Well, yeah, dumbass. It's the beginning of the NFL season. You've been talking about football for weeks and weeks and weeks. These guys have been talking about the Canucks and the
Raptors and the Maple Leafs.
Right, and it's like, well, now we want to talk about this. And it's like, oh my God, Super Bowl pick. So I'll read your column on Monday, and then I'll pick somebody different just to be contrarian, and we'll have amazing content for, I guess, Tuesday when we podcast.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. He's Mike Tanier. Make sure you subscribe on Substack to Mike Tanier's Two Deep Zone. It's mandatory reading every single week. Follow him on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. You can subscribe to Between the Hashmarks on Substack if you're a fan of my insider reporting, features, and analysis. Check out the show on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and follow my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. You can subscribe to the podcast there. Leave us those 5-star reviews and ratings. They do help grow the show. Mike, this was a ton of fun, but guess what? Next week, we get to talk about real football games.
Right. We could preview the actual games that are happening. Hallelujah.